still the ones that what you're dealing with today. Perfect organism.
Welcome to Screams and Streams, the podcast that looks at the best and worst horror movies as rated on Rotten Tomatoes from 1970 onwards. I'm your host, Mike Carron, and with me is my co-host,
Chad Campbell.
Before we get to today's film, we'd like to invite you to check us out on Instagram. Our handle is @ScreamStreamPod. Also, be sure to check out our website at screamsandstreams.com for more information about all the films we are looking at. Just a warning, in the podcast, we do jump around in the plot, and we may end up spoiling the film if you haven't had the chance to see it yet. If you don't like spoilers, we recommend that you stop listening now, check out the film, and then rejoin us for our discussion. Today, we are looking at Ridley Scott's 1979 film, Alien. It scored 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. Let's get into it. Chad, do you want to give us our plot summary, please?
Sure. The crew of a commercial spacecraft encounters a deadly life form after investigating a mysterious transmission of unknown origin. Brief, but to the point.
That is the movie.
Pretty much, yeah. I just wanted to mention 93% on Rotten Tomatoes. It did get 8.5 out of 10 on the IMDb website.
Not bad.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you want to give us your first impressions?
Sure. This movie I've watched multiple times, so giving a first impression is kind of strange, but it's one of my favorites. I love this film. I like the special effects. I like the pacing of it. I like Ripley, all the characters involved. Ollivander, the wand.
Oh, right. Okay.
Wizard. Sorry.
You mean Bilbo, right?
That's Ian Holm. He's Ash, the cyborg. But the guy who gets the alien busting through his chest.
Oh, John Hurt.
Is Ollivander from Harry Potter. Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that was John Hurt in that role.
Yeah.
Oh.
I like the story. I like everything about this film. Again, it's one of my favorites. So watching it was a pleasure. I
can almost remember my first impression of this. This movie, so many times in this podcast, I brought up like sleepovers at my friend's house in elementary, junior high, where we watched movies that were not meant for young children. And Aliens, the sequel, was the movie that we watched when I was in grade 6. And
grade 6, you watch Aliens?
Yeah.
That's the James Cameron film.
That's the James Cameron one with more military and action. So
right.
That was my first introduction into the franchise. And being in grade 6, that movie was like, oh my God, that was amazing. The action was great and just so much fun. And it's a very different film.
Yeah.
The number of bullets shot in that is incalculable. So going from that, I think it was a couple months later, we'd gotten it from the video store, like Alien.
Yeah.
And we didn't like it. Only because we saw Aliens first.
Right.
So we thought Alien, and this is grade 6, right? Like we're young, we're looking for an action film. So the first impression at that age, it didn't go over well. It was too slow. Mm-hmm. We liked the chest ripping scene. Like, oh, that was great. But like, as far as a group of boys looking for an action movie,
right,
Alien didn't do it. So I probably went back to this when it came up in a university course. I'm not saying like I didn't like it that much that I avoided. I just never thought of it again.
Right.
And so in university, Prof had mentioned Alien and Ridley Scott's set design and the Giger art. Yeah. And Giger was kind of big, and I had a calendar of his stuff. So I was like, oh, I'm going to go back and rewatch Alien because of the set design.
Right.
And so being more mature and a better viewer of film, I was blown away at how good it was. Just watching it late at night on a Friday because I had no friends. But I remember watching it. It was late at night. And I started and I was just not sure what I was going to get into because all I remember was it was a slow film.
Well, it does start. I mean, they set up a lot, right?
Yeah.
It does start in fact, that opening shot where they just kind of
go across the planet.
Well, that or like come into the ship and then they basically go through all the sections of the ship. It really reminded me of Star Trek in that opening scene. You've seen the first Star Trek?
Yeah.
Where it takes, 6 minutes to go through the Enterprise. They just have this long shot that goes forever. So yeah, I could see I mean, it's a slow burn. It does have a slow start to it. Yeah.
But watching it in my university years, I did enjoy it. I did appreciate the slowness of it. I did enjoy the pace of it. Like I said, I was a more mature film viewer at the time, so I can understand what Ridley Scott was doing with it and establishing the tension and establishing the atmosphere.
Right.
So I quite liked it. And I think by that time I had seen Spaceballs. And so I would say on that first rewatch, my least favorite part of the movie was the chest ripper. I found everything else really good. And when that scene came up, it was tainted by Spaceballs.
Oh,
and so,
yeah.
So I do quite like the film. I've seen it several times since then. Yeah. I put it on sometimes when I'm cleaning the house. Yeah. It's just, it's a good background movie as well. You sit down, you see the scene, you know what's coming. Yeah. I think it's fantastic.
I really liked how, well, you made mention to Aliens, which is the military one where they have bullets and guns and things to kill the aliens. And there's, way more aliens, right? Yeah. But in this one, they don't have anything. They just have a cattle prod and a sensor. Yeah. And basically they're just trying to lure it to a place where they can eject it out of the loading dock, right? I mean, they're going up against this perfect killing machine with a cattle prod. Right. And a sensor that was developed by Ash, who we'll get into later. Yeah. But yeah, I think Ridley Scott does a very good job at building that tension. Mm-hmm. And I know he took a lot of his filmmaking from Hitchcock. Right. In that respect for doing a sci-fi / horror film. All right. We're going to move into our Tropes Hall of Shame, and I'm going to kick us off. And the first one, again, I feel like Spaceballs is going to come up a lot in this conversation. But as the Nostromo is coming, like flying, the camera goes underneath and it pans across the belly of the ship to show its size and enormity. And again, I was taken back to like it happens in Star Wars with the Star Destroyer. But Spaceballs again has ruined that, where it just keeps going on and on and on forever. That shot of a spaceship cruising overhead to show its immense size and enormity is what I have right out of the gate. I tell you, like looking at it floating through space, it doesn't look like a spaceship. It is a space city. It's massive with the tall towers and spires. I was wondering, just like, because we see, sections of the ship as they're running through, but mostly you see them in the shuttle when they're leaving, they land on the planet, they're flying away. But that massive space station, I always thought, especially watching it this time, can't you just lock down a section and just try to get out of there? Just lock them in the tower over there, and then we just ride it out. They do kind of try that with Dallas closing off the sections with the... That's true. And he's using the vents. So, I mean, you'd have to close up all the air vents and stuff like that. But anyways. What is one of your tropes? One of mine is going back for the cat. Oh, okay. Going back for the animal. We just did another film that does that as well, the Amityville Horror. He goes back for the dog, even though there's a demonic presence in the house and he could die. She goes back for the cat. Yeah. And there's an alien that is stalking her, which, I mean, I don't know. I love my cat, but I don't know. Yeah, it seems weird. It's tough. How would audiences have reacted had the ship blown up with a cat on board? Yeah, I don't know. At the same time, I mean, they could have just had that Jonesy was on the shuttle in the way that the alien is on the shuttle at the end as well. Right. She could have placed it in the shuttle first. Right. I did like where the alien's looking at the cat in the cat carrier and then just hits it to the side and just shoots it out to the side. Not worth my time. That was my first one. Did you have one? My next trope is relating to Jonesy as well, where they have the sensor and it's tracking motion. And it's like, it's getting closer. Where is it? And then it's not the alien. It's Jonesy just like coming through the area. Right. Yeah. So quite often, it's not the monster. It's the animal or it's someone else. Yeah. And I'll just piggyback off that. But I like that because he was, it's been done before. But I did like how they said, well, you got to get him because he's just going to turn up on the sensor again. Right, yeah. So you got to go get him. And that sends him into the room where, I mean, he ultimately meets his end. However, that leads into my next trope, which is looking around all these chains are dangling around. All this precipitation is happening in the ship. I was like, where's this coming from? And
sorry, I was reading on a website where when Ridley Scott brought that in the studio's like, why was there rain in a ship? And Ridley Scott's like, well, it's condensation. Like, oh, okay.
But a shit ton.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, he takes his hat off like it's raining on him.
Yeah.
So I thought that was a lot. Plus, I wasn't sure what that room was for. There's all these dangling chains and stuff. It reminded me of Event Horizon a little bit.
Right.
And maybe Event Horizon took
set design
from that, but I wasn't sure what that was. And always looking around, it's not there. You think it's there, it's not there. And then it appears behind him and there it happens, right? And he actually, the alien in this film appears behind multiple characters.
I was going to say, they do it a lot where
it just skulks in and it's there. And then they turn around, oh my God.
Yeah. the thing is immense, and yet it like can sneak up on everybody.
Yeah. It's very, very quiet.
Yeah. We're now going to move into our one-liners. Chad, what is your first one-liner?
My first one is Ripley, where she says, micro changes in air density, my ass.
What I love about that sensor is like it measures micro changes in air density. Only if you're pointing directly at the thing where the density is changing. It doesn't measure anything behind. Things are moving left and right. Doors are opening and closing. Doesn't set it off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But is that how Ash designed it? Perhaps. Right. So I don't know, but I just like that line. Ripley's got some good dialogue.
She does
in this film. So that was my first one.
My first line is when they get the signal and the Nostromo is going to go and investigate. It's like, well, is it a sort of rescue beacon or is it a warning sign?
Yeah.
And then Ash says, well, by the time it takes to get there, they'll know if it's a warning or not.
Right.
And it's just so ominous and so well done because, of course, Ripley wants to go and warn them or get to the exploration crew or the landing crew. It's like, but yeah, by the time you get there, it'll be too late if it's too late.
Right.
Yeah. And what is your other line?
Well, my next one, and I didn't actually write down the exact line, but it's when Ash violates quarantine and then Ripley goes to confront him and says, you violated quarantine. And he says, well, what was I supposed to do? Just leave him out there. She says, but you've put us all at risk. That's a strange thing for a science officer.
Right.
So she questions him right away. And if you were a science officer, you would be following protocol.
Yeah.
And he's also the medical officer on that voyage as well.
Yeah.
So he would not want this guy coming into the ship with this thing around his neck. Like they would follow that kind of protocol. So it really is foreshadowing of what's to come.
Yeah.
But it also, I love the way that she just confronts him. And she's the one that wouldn't let them in. She's, no, I'm not going to do it.
Yeah. I'm in charge when Dallas is off the ship.
Yeah. And that's an order. She's like, I hear you, but I'm not letting you in. Quarantine protocol calls for this. And then he disobeys and I've opened it up. She's like, what the hell are you doing?
Yeah.
Which is fair. Yeah. Right? I mean, those things are in place for a reason. I mean, if they would have followed protocol, who knows?
Yeah. It would have just been like, oh, those three are dead. And
movie's done.
So on that questioning of that scene, we're going to go into our what doesn't hold up. And I'm going to kick us off with my first one. And I was trying to decide, would this go into gratuitous or doesn't hold up? But it's the characters of Brett and Parker always griping about their pay.
Oh, yeah.
And their percentage and their take. And we're getting paid less than them. Why can't we do that?
We need the shares. We need full shares or we're not doing any more work. And
it's like, well, if you don't do the work, you're not getting any shares. Like, oh, I guess we'll do the work. And so I sort of looked at like, well, in the 1970s, you had the credit crisis. You had the auto industry was dying and factories were shutting down. So
right.
It does speak to the economic disparity of the United States at the time. I mean, we're still in the inflation crisis now, so it is still relevant, but it just became this running thing that kept coming back, and it was just too much.
Right.
I don't know if we're supposed to like Brett and Parker as characters, and later on there's the confrontation between Ripley and Parker over control.
Right.
But it made me like them a lot less every time it happened.
I don't know if we're necessarily supposed to like them, but I think we're supposed to learn from that they like each other.
Right.
And that they're buds. There's a scene where Ripley says, no matter what he says, you say right.
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 Right. And then he just keeps going on with that. So when he ultimately dies, it shows the effect on the other crew member, right?
Right. Yeah. When Brett dies.
Yeah.
Harry Dean Stanton. Yeah.
So I think that's where that's supposed to go. But I agree. Yeah, that annoyed me as well. And so when they're refusing to do the work, they've crash landed on that planet. Don't you want to go home?
Yeah.
We're not doing anything else unless we get full shares. It's like, well, we're all here.
Yeah, we can't get off this planet.
None of us are doing anything, and you won't be able to spend anything if you're, So that scene didn't make sense. I also didn't like how when Ripley comes down to talk to them, they turn on the vents. Or just, what? And they're trying to, annoy her. And she gets it. She finally turns to them and says, fuck you, and then leaves. But yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's kind of annoying.
Yep.
Yeah.
What was your doesn't hold up?
Well, mine's a little less intellectual, let's say. Mine's the puppets, or the puppet that comes out of Kane. I love the chest bursting scene itself. When the puppet comes out and when it runs away, when I first saw it, I think I bought it.
Yeah.
Right. But now with, advances in technology and stuff, it's just hard to buy anymore.
Yeah. Like it doesn't move at all. It just opens its mouth slightly and turns left and right. It's too simple.
And then it just goes straight off the table and is gone. Right. So that I didn't buy it anymore.
Yeah. Especially and we'll get into this, but the special effects for everything else was fairly
well done. Yeah.
Although I say that, I'm going to get into my doesn't hold up, and that is the way the alien moves at times.
Yes.
It is creepy, and I like the fact that we don't ever see it in its full scope.
Right.
We see its head, we see its body, we see it on the shuttle at the end. It's writhing around behind the cables, and we never really get a full sense of its size.
Well, we do when she shoots him out the air duct.
Yeah, and so we do. Yeah, we do.
But that's the only time you see the full alien.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But in all the other scenes where like Harry Dean Stanton's looking for it and then it comes out from behind, or when Dallas is shooting the flamethrower and it comes out from behind.
Yeah.
Every time it just does this like weird, like I want to say jazz hands, but it's just like,
yeah, it's got the hands out. Yeah. When Dallas dies, it definitely it just kind of surprise. It's there. Yeah.
And even like the way, because it has the two sets of jaws, it has its mouth, and then when it opens up, that like
projectile that shoots out.
It comes out, and like there's a second mouth on it. Even that moves weird. So I mean, it's 1979. The effect of the alien was great, right? The drool and the tendons and the skeletal nature of it was great. But I think they were restricted in maybe the confines. The actor himself couldn't move as much as needed to make it truly scary. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll have to agree. There is a scene where you see I think it's just below the alien's arms, and it's just kind of lumbering towards its next victim, and its arms are outstretched. It looks like it's almost looking for a hug, and it's just moving very, very slowly towards the victim. And I remember it's just not moving right.
Yeah.
And in the second one, I mean, obviously that's years later and technology is advanced, and James Cameron is, very good at developing technology to suit his films. Mm-hmm. The aliens move a lot quicker. They're on top of the rafters and crawling towards them, and they're really hustling. Yeah. Where in this one, it's kind of the alien's already there, or we see it in a dot as it's moving across. Right.
Okay, we're now going to move into our most gratuitous scene. Chad, what was your most gratuitous scene?
Well, I got to go with the obvious one, and that's the chest breaker scene. I mean, and not because it took me out of the movie at all. It's just one of the most iconic scenes in any film. It's been parodied, as you said, in Spaceballs. It's also been parodied in others' films. It's well acted, and the blood spurt and the way it pops out it was such a cool idea. Yeah. And such a great way to show it on film. I just love that scene so much. And so, that's my winner for that one.
And it was a great one. I went with a different one, and it's when Ripley and Ash are fighting, and then Parker hits him in the head, and his head like rips back.
Yeah.
And that's where we find out he's an android or a cyborg or a robot, whichever word you want to use.
That would be my second, because it was so good,
But the amount of like that white blood
Yeah.
that comes out just sprays everywhere, soaks everything. I thought it was really well done. And that scene, even under an HD restoration, it still holds up. Again, we've talked about how when there's a head wound or a chopping of a head or whatever, you can see the cut to a dummy.
Yeah.
And that one, it's flawless.
Yeah.
Like there's the struggle, and all of a sudden he wangs him in the head and it just flops backwards. It's a very well done effect.
Yeah, he hits him first in this, obviously just in the right spot, and he starts to flip around and do so. I remember watching it and being, whoa, why is he like freaking out like this? Wouldn't he be knocked out, or wouldn't? And he's just flailing about, and then he hits him again, and it knocks his head back, and all that stuff goes everywhere, and you're just, what the heck?
And then when they reanimate him to interview him, and he's just like covered in it, it's just like, you just imagine it everywhere in that room.
And he's such a jerk when they reanimate him too, and he's just, hi.
That was. We're now going to move into our stood the test of time. Chad, what stood the test of time for you?
Well, mine is a very broad one. Other than the puppetry sections, I guess, and the movement in some scenes with the alien, basically because it's dated, I just thought the effects in this whole film were done so well. Like you said, the drool and the liquid that comes out of the jaws, the eggs still look so cool.
Yeah.
How they open up, and when they're looking in there, the alien inside, and they see it moving, and then it just opens up and attacks him. And the way it attacks him is still a jump scare. Like it still gets me, the way they add that sound and him shooting forward and all the whipping around that happens. And I thought the face hugger was just, it's such a cool looking thing that with the long fingers, it wraps around his face.
Yeah.
The tail, if they're trying to take it off, it's like, nope. And it just cinches up. And I just thought it was very well done. I liked the look of the spaceship in space. I liked the way it docked and undocked. I thought their use of modeling still holds very well by today's standards. And I don't think it's one of those things that has been lost in film because of CGI. I wish more people would use modeling and make it look as real as that does, because there are so many scenes in that film that look genuine.
Yeah.
Whereas if you go to Star Wars episode 1, 2, and 3, it just looks like a drawing or a painting, or it's just too perfect.
Yeah.
With the modeling that they used in this film, there are little imperfections that make it look real to the eye, I think.
Yes, I agree.
So that's what stood the test of time for me.
You covered a lot of the things that I also had written down. And the first one I wrote down was just the physicality of the ship, the physical space that it occupies.
Right.
And it's the ship itself, the hallways, the rooms. It establishes depth and atmosphere and the environment very well.
Yep.
The way the hallways are all built up, so good. And the use of models, it gives you the enormity and the presence of everything that's taking place. So I gotta echo that. And also I had written down the face hugger egg. When they shine the light on it and you see it moving around inside. Like, this is a 1979 film. We're watching an HD restoration, but it's so holds up.
Yes.
It looks amazing. There's no, it doesn't feel like a cheat. It doesn't feel like a puppet. It's quite good. And you're right. That attack was just, so good. And like, it almost looks like a raw chicken breast texture.
Yeah.
The slickness of it. It's very visceral.
When the egg opens up, the fact that he sticks his face in it, it's just ridiculous. I remember even watching it as a kid. It's like, why are you getting so close?
And on the face hugger, just one more special effects comment. When they're dissecting it after it's fallen off of Kane and it drops dead from the rafters, which was a great jump scare as well.
Yeah.
I learned they used shellfish and oysters and things like that in a sheep's liver.
Yeah.
But it looked so good. Like it was, those things were unrecognizable in the way they laid it out in this.
Yes.
And so when they're poking and prodding, like it does look like a real organism.
It really does.
Yeah.
Yeah. They did a fantastic job creating it. Yeah.
And then just my other test of time, it's Ian Holm portraying Ash, the android.
Oh, yeah.
I thought he did such a good job. But of course, we don't know he's an android the first watching of the film, but just he's so cold. He's so callous, so dislikable that you understand immediately why Ripley has a problem with him. But then when the twist comes, it all sort of slots into place.
Yeah.
I thought that was really good. And Ian Holm himself, test of time, he looks the same age in Alien in 1979 as he did as Bilbo in 2002 or 3.
They did a very good job with that. Yeah.
When I was watching the credits at the beginning and it said, and Ian Holm, I'm like, oh, I wonder who he's going to play. And then when you see him on screen, I'm like, there's no way that's Ian Holm. Like, dude hasn't aged a day. I think he was 49 when they filmed this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah. He's aged very well from 49 to, what was that, 70 something. We're now going to move into our category of eerie to ear splitting, the discussion of sound. And I'm going to kick us off here. To be honest, the soundtrack was quite good, but the part that I really liked was when the landing crew or the landing team leaves to go explore where the signal's coming from and they're going through the ship.
Yeah.
There's no soundtrack.
Yes.
It's just the silence and the atmosphere. And I loved that because, again, it doesn't let the audience know what's coming or what to expect. So when you haven't seen this film before, you know it's called Alien. You assume it's a horror movie based on the rating, but you don't know, is there the danger yet?
Right.
And then once they get to the space jockey and then they see this the chest ripping or the chest is ripped open, then the soundtrack starts to come in and then we start to get the buildup of the sort of tension and then they go into the room and find the eggs.
Yeah.
So I quite liked that.
I thought the whole soundtrack was eerie, but what I loved is I'm also going to say I love the fact that they didn't use music in that time. But what I really loved were the sound effects of all the creature stuff happening, the way the egg opened, like the folding back of the flaps and the way it shot out of there and then whipped around like that. I thought that was just really well done. I loved all the sound effects of this film when his secondary jaw shot through the head, the sound effects there, when it broke through the chest, that first initial,
oh yeah.
And then it comes through. And I just thought it was masterfully done. The way they found the sound to, kind of tell you what this might sound like. Because it's all made up, right?
Yeah.
So you're going into, this is what I think an egg would sound like when it opens up.
Right.
And I thought they just did a really good job with that.
And I loved the sort of clicking of the alien.
Yeah.
And just the noises it's made, just so creepy and unsettling.
Yeah.
We're now going to go into our back it up moments. And I'm going to give us the first one. And it ties into my eerie to ear splitting. And it is the exploration of the alien ship. The lighting, the fog, the camera angles, everything about it was just so good. The enormity of it.
Yes. The sheer scale of it alone is awe-inspiring. When you see him trying to come down that little rope and he's, coming down into this huge open area, it's,
Even when he slips and falls into the hatchery or whatever you want to call it.
The nursery?
The nursery, yeah. Just little things like that where it's like, it's not perfect. They are just people that aren't used to this, right? They're miners essentially, and now they're on a rescue or exploration mission.
Yeah. Which isn't in the contract.
And I want my share.
Yeah.
So that's my first back it up. What was one of your back it ups?
One of mine was when Ripley discovers the alien in the space shuttle that she's trying to escape.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just because he's sleeping.
Yeah.
Like he's in there resting.
Which is weird. But
it is weird, but he obviously knows something's up. So he's camping out in there. And maybe he just got tired of waiting for her. Yeah. I don't know. But he's in there and when she notices him, I thought that scene was really well done. Like her fear when she backs off and then straps herself in.
Oh, when she's slowly getting into that spacesuit in that cramped space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's trying to, do it so he won't wake up. That scene is very, very tense.
Yeah.
and you're just, is he going to get her? And yeah, so I really like that scene.
Of all the places on the ship for that alien to go to, somehow he got to the escape shuttle before she did.
And I can see that. I even thought that this last time as I was watching, it's like, why is he there?
Yeah.
She ran away from him. She got away from him. You'd think he'd still be
hunting her
down in other parts of the ship, right?
Yeah.
So why is he in there? And like you said, it is weird that he's napping.
Yeah.
That he's just in there. And then she aggravates him or wakes him up by steaming him.
Yeah.
And he gets angry, but I don't know, why he's in there asleep.
Yeah.
But I do like how they shot the scene.
Oh, yeah. It was very well done. I just, when she's like, I'm free. And then there's the alien. Like, how the hell?
Yeah. I like how the thing didn't cancel. I turned it off, mother. And she's, it's going to self-destruct in 4 minutes and 35 seconds. Yeah.
I never wrote it down, but watching that like activation of the self-destruct sequence, I thought was pretty good because you have to intentionally screw in and pull up like 4 different posts,
right? Open
up and flick 4 different switches. Like it's not a simple turn the key, hit the button.
No, it is. Are you sure you want to do this? Yeah. There are multiple ways to back out of this process. Yeah. And then you get 5 minutes to decide if you really want to do this.
Yeah.
However, I will say that given the last minute, I do not think she would have got away.
No.
Far enough to not feel any effects of that explosion or even survive.
Right.
I mean, while she's leaving, again, if you want to talk about Spaceballs, you see her leaving the ship. It's the bottom of the ship is like going by her
forever again.
And then it's like down to 20 seconds and she's super far away. It's like, did she have hyperspace there? Did she have a booster? Like what happened?
Yeah.
How'd she get so far? But anyways, that's kind of getting nitpicky about it. I still love the film and I love that scene. So that's where I'm going to end it.
My other back it up scene was when they're all at the dinner table and Ash is like, Ripley, you should come take a look at this.
Yeah.
And they go back to the infirmary and the face hugger's gone.
Yeah.
I just quite liked it because they have the camera set up sort of way off to the side at a low angle.
Yeah.
And so it's like you're getting it from the perspective of the face hugger. And so they come in and again, they explore the entire space from that shot. So you think like, oh, this is the creature watching them search for it. But then it falls dead from the rafters. So it's kind of gives this red herring to the audience. Like, nope, that actually wasn't what you were seeing.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that misleading of the audience there and the silence.
Yeah. They don't use any music for that part. They don't build anything. There's no jump scare through sound.
No.
That tail drops down and then the whole thing drops on her.
Yeah.
And she freaks out. Yeah. Hard to believe this was her first film.
I know. From stage acting to this.
Yeah.
Yeah. She did such a good job.
Yeah. Such a good character though, too. Like just really well written.
Yeah. I did have one question for you before we get into the bonus features, because it was something that kind of bothered me. It was the evolution of the alien. So it comes out of Kane's chest, 8 inches, maybe a foot.
Oh, it grows super fast.
And then without any source of protein or like energy, it then sheds that one skeleton. They find the shedded skin.
Yeah.
And then it's suddenly a giant 6'10" threat.
Yeah, no, I've had problems with that basically with all the films because it grows so quickly. And I don't know how, because it doesn't eat until it's full grown.
It doesn't eat, nor does it shed another exoskeleton.
Yeah. And the exoskeleton what was his name that found the exoskeleton? I
think it was Brett.
Brett. So he picks it up and it's still quite small. Like he shed the layer of skin that basically came out of his chest, it seems. Yeah. And then, it is a massive 7'5" alien.
Yeah.
That is dominating the ship. So I don't get that either. And they never make reference to it or explain it in any film.
No, it's just the perfect organism, therefore can grow that fast.
Yeah.
We are now going to go to our bonus features. Chad, what did you find?
Well, I found quite a bit, but what I'm going to start with is a little story I found about because it was my favorite scene, a little story about the chest bursting scene.
All right.
So I'm just going to read an interview with Ridley Scott from Empire Magazine here. I found this on CBR.com. He just says, the reactions were going to be the most difficult thing. If an actor is just acting terrified, you can't get a genuine look of raw animal fear. And so none of the casts were told about the level of gruesomeness. Although much of the crew wore raincoats for the blood, which was a hint of what was about to come. The screenwriter, Dan O'Bannon, even mentioned that Veronica Cartwright, when the blood hit her, she passed out. I heard from Yaphet Kotto's wife that after that scene, he went to his room and wouldn't talk to anybody.
For several hours.
Part of what makes the reaction so genuine isn't just the surprise, but also the realism of the effect. Once the impressive puppet was built and ready to go, an artificial chest was screwed onto the table, leaving holes for actor John Hurt to put his head and his limbs through, which looks seamless, by the way.
Yeah.
You can't tell that he's not, because they're pinning him down, like,
yep,
so well shot, like, unbelievable. Dan O'Bannon said that once the creature was rigged up, they stuffed the chest cavity full of organs from the butcher, and then they ran a couple of big hoses to pump the stage blood. While the cast reactions are genuine, the final result had to be made by blending 2 different takes. Once the aliens started moving about the chest, there's only so far it could get before it was stuck under John Hurt's shirt. And so just the cast was leaning in to see what was going on. Someone came to cut open the hole for it to spring through. And it was with this new take that the Xenomorph popped out and took everyone by surprise. And all that was left was the alien to make its escape as a simple puppet on a stick. So that scene, the fact that they got the genuine reactions was really interesting to me, which is very Hitchcock.
Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't tell anybody.
Well, the fact that Cartwright, right? She passed out from it, and then Kotto was so traumatized.
Yeah, he's just like, I'm not talking to anybody. That's it. That's it.
I read a quote from Sigourney Weaver talking about the smell on the set.
Oh, yeah.
Because they went and bought a bunch of innards.
Yeah, they had sheep's stomach and tripe and all these things. Part of the set and that ship was built with bone, so the bones were starting to stink as well too. So
under the lights, under the Klieg lighting, it was starting to boil. And they said they cleaned off the organs, but they were washed in formaldehyde. So you had the formaldehyde smell. Then you had the fact that the lights were heating up and basically cooking these innards. And so Sigourney Weaver said it was almost oppressively disgusting. And the 2 takes, the first one it was supposed to punch through and it didn't make it through the shirt. Yeah. And so then they did the second one. And I think that works even better, where it's the alien pushes but doesn't make it and then bursts through.
I think it does as well. Yeah. Because I don't think it would be, even as a infant, I don't think it would be strong enough to push through the breastplate of a human on the first take.
Yeah.
But the sound effect and that little blood spurt in his chest, and then when it pops through, it's just wow. It's very disturbing. And it's funny because I used to run a haunted house and I had what I called a butcher room. And so I went and bought a bunch of innards and things so that people were cutting it up. And then I had Jello and fake stuff on the side, that so if they wanted to put their face in anything or something like that, it was Jello.
Right.
And nobody could tell. So they'd hold up these intestines and these chicken hearts as in one scene or in one look. And then over here with the other hand, they'd pull out this Jello and rub it on their face. And it would look just disgusting. But I'll tell you, by the end of the day, running just that haunted house for a couple of hours with those innards just at room temperature or just slightly above, that room reeked.
Yeah.
And as soon as people entered at the start, by the end of the run, it was oppressive, that stench. And they'd walk in and just be like, oh, it's gross in here. And then it got grosser.
So just imagine under hot studio lights
for 12 to 14 hours a day.
Oh, gross.
Yeah.
Just on the effects, talking about what was used, the eggs when for the scene, like were stuffed with sheep intestines and cow stomach lining.
Yeah.
And they couldn't get them to work properly. So Ridley Scott like put on a rubber glove and just basically shoved his hand under the egg and like got it to move properly.
Yeah. Did it like the Napoleon Dynamite flutter scene with his hands. Yeah. Apparently they used a lot of KY jelly.
Yeah.
Like cases of it. And one of the actors said that they'd never seen so much KY jelly. And there was one guy that would run on set and just like coat down this alien with KY jelly for the scene. Yeah.
I've got some financial stuff that I wanted to talk about.
Yep.
So the original budget was supposed to be, I saw one website say 2 million, but several websites said 4.
Oh.
So that was supposed to be the original budget. And then Ridley Scott went in and asked for more money, and he brought in the storyboards. And I'll see if I can find a really good image to put on the website for listeners. But the studio was so impressed by his storyboards and the detail and his plan. They're like, this guy knows what he's doing. Yeah. So they upped it to 11 million.
Oh,
so that was the budget of the film. What's crazy is the box office of this movie. So opening weekend, it got $3.5 million.
Okay.
So like, this is 1979. We're not talking like $100 million blockbuster weekends like we have now.
Yeah.
But the theatrical run went from May to early October.
Whoa.
Because that's how popular it was. It didn't leave the theaters that entire time. And in that time, it made 60 million, which is 272 million in current dollars.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a blockbuster hit.
Well, I remember them talking about like people were lined up to see it. They said that people were puking and running out and all that stuff. You know, when you get a good horror movie, people react, right? I found this interesting, though, that Ridley Scott in his original ending wanted Ripley to die.
Oh, yes. I have that detail, too. Yeah.
So this is how it was written. It was supposed to blow up. Ripley was going to sail away. And then the last shot was that there's an alien on the ship, and then it cut. And that was going to be it.
Yeah.
He didn't want it to end that way. So he went back to the studio and asked them for more money to film the ending the way he wanted it. But he didn't tell them how he wanted to finish it. So what he did was he got the money and then he shot the scene he wanted. And apparently the alien was supposed to rip Ripley's head off.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the end of the film.
Well, and then the website I had said that it rips off Ripley's head, sits down in her chair, and then using the voice of Dallas, so Tom Skerritt, says, "I'm signing off. Hopefully the network picks me up."
Wow.
Which would have been terrible.
Yeah. Well, the fact that it's like a Terminator now, like it can mimic voices and stuff, but when it hasn't spoken at all throughout the whole thing, like if they were going to do that, they had to make it like a Predator where it was playing recordings or whatever. And then he played it for the studio and they hated it. So then they were like, no, you got to change that. And that's why we got the ending where Ripley, they wanted the alien to get its comeuppance. So that's why we got the ending where Ripley is victorious and then signs off. But it's like, wow, like you wanted the alien to rip her head off? Like one of the most powerful female characters or leads of the film who survived this whole thing, and you wanted her to die and wanted the alien to be victorious. I don't know if he was looking for a franchise. I didn't find anything about that. I know this movie spawned like 10 other spin-offs. Like there were 4 directly with the aliens, and then there were Alien versus Predator and those that came after. But I'm not sure that's what he wanted, because he didn't sign on for the second one.
No, and then I feel like he built the mythology of Prometheus and Covenant was sort of like in later years, let's do the prequels of what the forerunners or whatever you want to call them, or the engineers was. Yeah. I have some information about sort of like the way things could have gone. Yeah. Ridley Scott was the 5th choice for director. Oh. Some of the other ones they went with were, and I don't know all these names, but Robert Altman. I guess it would have been a movie about people talking about aliens. I don't know. I like Altman, but he's very much just about conversation. Peter Yates, Jack Clayton, and then Robert Aldrich. And I loved this part of the story around the directors where he was actually pegged. They liked him. And so they were talking about how did he envision the facehugger scene? Yeah. And I guess his response was like, oh, we'll just put a couple of tubes across his face and sort of attach them. No one's going to remember it anyway. Oh. And the studio was like, yeah, you don't have the vision. You're out. Yeah. And thank God, because that face hugger, it's iconic. You're never going to forget it. But that's what you take away.
Super creepy.
Yeah.
That thing. Yeah. Yeah.
So
I know.
That comment from him, I think, saved the film.
For sure.
Yeah.
I have, the first cut was 3 hours and 12 minutes. They said the studio was like, we need a 2-hour film. We can't have it that long. And so I know there were some scenes here and there that they cut minutes out of. The scene with Dallas when he's cocooned, they were actually supposed to have a conversation.
Oh.
And so it was quite a bit longer. I think it was supposed to be like a 10-minute scene. Like it was a long conversation.
Okay. The clip I saw was like 4 minutes.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But I'm sure it's longer. Yeah.
Well, you may be right too. And they ended up just shortening it to kill me, and then she burns him.
Right.
But at the end, I remember they were supposed to have this long conversation, and then she realizes that she can't save him. There's nothing that she can do, so then she burns him. So I kind of wonder what that scene would have been like, but obviously not needed. I did like that she came in there and he was just, kill me.
Yeah.
And then she just looks and burns him.
Yeah.
But what a horrible way. That guy went through hell. He got cocooned and then he gets burned.
Yeah. Like, no, kill me quicker.
Yeah. Can you just shoot me?
A couple other what could have beens. The original project title was Star Beast by O'Bannon. And he's like, that's terrible. So then I guess they were reading back through the script and like the number of times the word alien gets said, they're like, let's just call it Alien.
Right.
Yeah. And then a couple of other sort of casting choices. Veronica Cartwright, who plays Lambert, auditioned for the role of Ripley.
Oh.
And actually thought that's how she got cast and showed up to play Ripley and found out, no,
she wasn't that.
You're Lambert. Other people considered for Ripley were Helen Mirren and Meryl Streep. So like some good caliber.
Yeah.
But Ridley Scott said like Meryl will be a great actress, but Sigourney is Ripley. Right?
Nice. So Ridley really wanted.
Yeah. There was an anecdote about her audition where she went to the wrong place. And so she was late and terrified. So they were waiting for her and they could hear someone like sprinting down the hallway. So they could hear these footsteps. They got right to the door and it was silence while she just composed herself.
Yeah.
Opened the door and they're like, that was it. That's how she got the role.
Really?
Yeah.
That was the audition.
Yeah. The fact that she could compose herself from that sprint and come in just ready to go.
Be ready to go.
Yeah. And then I guess Ripley was originally written as a man. And so they changed it to a female and Ridley Scott was really sort of concerned about portrayal of a female and getting it right.
Right.
That he showed it to like a pool of 12 women that were in the office, like, you know, or showed Sigourney Weaver's test footage, like her audition. And they're like, she's the one.
Yeah. I had one more. 20th Century Fox did not want to do the movie.
Yeah.
They had, I don't know if they refused it, but they weren't interested. But around the same time, Star Wars had been released and was a huge unexpected hit. And so Fox was like, okay, well, we want to keep this sci-fi thing going, but the only script they had was Alien. And so they said, all right, let's just do this one. It's the only quote unquote spaceship movie we have. So let's do that. And that's how it got made. So it was saved by Star Wars because they just did not want to make it.
That's amazing.
I know, right?
There was two other things sort of around the Ridley Scott influence on the film. He wanted to build the sense of claustrophobia and confinement. So he had the walls pushed closer together just a little bit every day of filming. So the set would actually get smaller and smaller. So then actors, sort of unaware of what he was doing, started to feel oppressed by the set.
Yeah.
And the other one I really liked, and this is, I could have brought it up in Eerie to Ear Splitting, but Goldsmith, who did the score, originally did a very more traditional sounding score.
Kind of a romantic and
And Ridley Scott did not like it. Said it was like basically terrible. And so Goldsmith, in an act of rebellion, apparently, and this was the quote on the website, it said, composed the weirdest music he could conceive. And then Scott and producers like, that's it. That's our sound.
That's what I want.
And so then Goldsmith had to make this entire score of music that was just like, oh, this is terrible. I don't like it.
Well, and I heard that they took bits from other scores that he had done, and they brought up certain parts and brought down certain parts of the score that he had given them. And when he saw the movie, he was livid.
Well, and he didn't get the closing credits song either. They gave it to a different composer.
But he won the Oscar for it.
But yeah, so there you go. Talking about casting potentials, Harrison Ford and Tommy Lee Jones were both considered for the role of Captain Dallas.
Oh, okay.
And Harrison Ford passed, but Tommy Lee Jones said, yes, I want to work on the film, but I want to play the alien. So then the studio's like, no, we're good. Thank you. Yeah. And so then went with Tom Skerritt from there.
Well, and one of the other things I found out that, so they were trying to use mainly a puppet for the alien itself, but it just wasn't working. They couldn't get it to move right. And so they're like, well, let's develop this suit. And so they developed the alien suit, but it required someone who was quite lean and slender. And they couldn't find people. Everybody who tried to get into this suit made it look too bulky and too big. They were at a pub one night and they looked over and they saw this like really tall, slender man.
Yeah.
And they just walked up to him and said, hey, do you want to be in movies? And he was a graphic designer. And he said, well, what are you thinking? And they told him. And so he signed on and was the alien for the next 10 months.
Balaji Badejo.
I saw the documentary and he was very tall and lean.
He was 6'10",
quite skinny.
And that brings us to our watchability scale. I'm going to give this one, I don't know. I love it. It's great. There's a few flaws here or there. I mean, I've given these out a lot lately. I'm giving it a 9.
No, I'm there with you. I'm 9. Yeah. I loved it. I struggle because I don't know if I'm not giving it a 10 because of the dated technology and the puppetry and stuff like that. But I liked everything else so much that I know I'm going to keep it a 9.
This is the tempting 10, isn't it?
It is, because, I mean, it's acted so well. It's shot very well. I love the story. It's an iconic film. It's been copied. It's been, I don't know. I'm conflicted. But no, I'm going to stay at a 9.
Yeah, there's still the puppetry of the alien after the chest bursting. There's still the jazz hands of the alien in the hallways.
That one I never bought even as a kid. The one where Dallas dies and it's right behind you and he looks over and it's surprise. I just never bought that one. And the one I said before where he's lumbering towards her, I think it's the one where he kills her with the tail.
Right.
I didn't like the movement there. And nowadays I'm not loving the alien on the track running off the table.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm going to keep it at a 9 just because I'm being a pissy pants about it. So that's what I'm going to do.
On an earlier episode, you're like, we got to save that 10. I took my 10 card out.
You did? Yeah, you threw it down. Yeah, I know. But no, I'm 9.
All right. With that, we are done our discussion of Ridley Scott's 1979 film Alien. Thank you very much for listening to us. Be sure to check us out on Instagram. We are at ScreamStreamPod. Stop by our website, screamsandstreams.com, where we have information about our episodes, descriptions of our categories, links to our research, and our watchability scale, where we rank all the films we are looking at. And please rate, comment on, and subscribe to our show on any of the platforms where you get your podcasts. Until next time, this has been Mike and
Chad.
Scare you later.